Some crime scenes are so strange they haunt investigators for their entire careers. Well, this is one of them. For nearly 30 years, Thames Valley Police have been wrestling with one single question: who killed Janet Brown? And even today, the facts of this case, they just don't add up.
Just think about this. A year into the investigation, the lead detective on the case basically admitted he was stumped. He said, "There is no theory to explain what happened that night," which makes perfect sense. This was a seasoned officer, but the facts here refused to fit any kind of logical pattern. And as you'll see, that confusion, it has only gotten deeper over time.
But before this all became a baffling case file, it was the violent, tragic end of a life. And to really understand the crime, you first have to understand the victim, a loving mother named Janet Brown. To her daughter Zara, the memory is simple and it's so powerful. She was a really good mom. Her family was everything to her. Janet was really the calm, kind center of their world, a world that was about to be completely, irrevocably shattered. By all accounts, Janet lived a really peaceful life. At 51, she was a respected research nurse, she was married, and she was a devoted mother of 3. Their home? A remote farmhouse. The kind of quiet country escape that people dream of. And the sad irony is, this was a security-conscious woman. She even organized the local neighborhood watch. And yet she was about to face this unimaginable violence in the one place she should have been safest.
That piece was just obliterated on April 11th, 1995. A builder showing up for a job was met with the piercing sound of a burglar alarm still going off. When he looked through a window, he saw what was at the bottom of the stairs. And that discovery, well, it launched one of the region's most enduring and mysterious murder investigations.
And the crime scene itself? This is where the story goes from just tragic to deeply, deeply strange. The evidence left behind was just this series of contradictions that pointed police in every direction, and ultimately nowhere at all. So get this, the window for the attack was incredibly narrow. At 8:15 p.m., Janet's on the phone with a friend. Everything's normal. Just 5 minutes later, another call goes unanswered. By 10 p.m., a neighbor can hear the house alarm, which police think Janet herself triggered. So the killer struck fast. But here's the thing, they didn't leave fast. What the police found was a scene of just methodical, controlled violence. Janet's hands were cuffed behind her back. Her mouth was taped so tightly that it would have suffocated her. The cause of death was a brutal beating. This was not a random act. Whoever did this came prepared. And this is where it gets truly bizarre. The autopsy confirmed there was no sexual assault. The house looked like it had been searched, but nothing of value was taken. And then you have these details that just make zero sense. The killer calmly washed their hands and then left the key to the handcuffs right under Janet's body. Why would you do that? Think about the killer's mindset for a second. They brought a glass cutter, right? That suggests a plan for a silent, stealthy entry. But then they just gave up and smashed the door instead, making a ton of noise. Why even bring the special tool if you're just going to make a scene? It's just another question in a sea of them. So, a totally confusing crime scene led to a massive police investigation. They had to figure out the motive, the why, but every single path they went down led to a dead end. No traditional motive seemed to fit these bizarre facts. And when I say the investigation was immense, I mean it. The police conducted thousands of inquiries and took around 2,000 witness statements. They left no stone unturned. And yet, after all of that effort, the central piece of the puzzle, the motive, was still completely missing. Let's be absolutely clear here. This was not a typical burglary, not even close. A burglar hears an alarm and they run. This killer stayed. A burglar steals valuables. This killer ignored them. A burglar avoids people. This killer specifically sought out and attacked a lone woman. The lead detective himself said more than 99% of burglars would run. This was something else entirely. So, if it wasn't a burglary, then what on earth was it? The police came up with 5 main theories, exploring every possibility, no matter how strange it sounded. The problem? The evidence from the crime scene seemed to contradict every single one. Okay, so let's run through them. A robbery gone wrong? Nope, nothing was stolen. A professional hit? No way. A hitman isn't going to hang around for an hour with an alarm blaring. A sexual attack? The coroner ruled that out.
What about industrial espionage? Her husband shot that idea down, and the police found nothing. A kidnapping? The killer never even tried to take her from the house. See, every standard explanation just falls apart.
For years, the case just went cold. The family was left shattered, completely haunted by this brutal murder and the total lack of answers. They never went back to their home. But decades later, science would breathe new life into the investigation. 20 years. I mean, just imagine 2 decades passing. The world moves on, but for Janet's family, the pain and the questions are still just as sharp as they were back in 1995. They are still waiting, still wondering.
And then, in 2015, a breakthrough. Using forensic technology that didn't even exist in the 90s, scientists managed to extract a full male DNA profile from evidence left at the scene. This was it. This was the silver bullet, the scientific proof that could finally identify Janet's killer. But just as quickly as that hope appeared, it was crushed. They ran the profile through the National DNA Database, a database with over 6 million people on file, and there was no match. The killer, it seems, had never been caught for any other crime. They were a ghost in the system. And so that's where the case stands today. Police have the killer's DNA. They just need a name to match it to. The family truly believes that someone, somewhere, knows who did this. Maybe a friend, a partner, someone the killer confided in over the last 3 decades. That person's conscience is now the last real hope for justice. So we are left with this ghost, a killer who was methodical yet chaotic, violent yet eerily calm, someone who planned an attack down to the tools they brought with them, but left a trail of clues that make no sense. For 30 years, they have walked free, their identity locked away, but they left their DNA at the scene, and that's a ticking time bomb of evidence. The only question is, after all this time, will someone finally light the fuse?